Okay, so now I have brought in this image in Photopea. I'm going to go to image and canvas size. Notice how canvas size is above image size. It's safe to work with canvas size because what canvas size does is control that master piece of paper, your artboard. Your images are the collections of pixels that you've brought in different layers. They can be bigger than your artboard, and you won't lose them. So I need to change it in the drop down to inches so I can see it. And I can see that the canvas size of this image looks really large. It's 15 by 22 inches. No matter what it is, if it's 1 by 2 inches, if it's 60 by 40 inches, I want you to change it to 8 by 10. 8 inches wide, 10 inches tall. We're doing them all portrait format. Okay, what it did was it made an 8 by 10 inch box. But what I didn't do is change my resolution. Because physical dimension is one thing, but the image is now only 576 by 720 pixels. Not very good. So the next thing I do is go to image size, which is underneath canvas size. This is the one that's dangerous. This is the one that changes your image. So that's why we do it when we only have one image in. We set up the right resolution. If I change it from pixels to inches, you'll see that my artboard is indeed 8 by 10, but my image is still bigger than that. Just anything that's not on the artboard is hanging off the edges of it, but it's still there. Now I'm going to say for pixels per inch, try to ignore DPI because that's a printing term. This is PPI. My pixels per inch, I want that to be 300. That is our minimum size for exercises or assignments. 8 by 10 physical inches by 300 pixels per inch. I say okay. It takes a little bit of time. What that did is it grew my image a little bit, which might make it a little fuzzier. What I'm going to do is shrink my image to make it sharp again, to make it fit on that artboard. How do I do that? If I use my move tool, you'll see that my whole image is there. It's just I'm only seeing a little window of it. So I change this, and this is a new skill, by clicking on Edit and Transform. Remember when we were in Canvas and we were resizing our images? The blue box that shows around it, that's called a Transform box. So you go to Edit, Transform, and then the thing I want to change is the size, so Scale. Then I get that Transform box and I drag those corners so it fits onto my artboard. Now zooming in, I can use the magnifying glass as a tool, but we always use shortcuts. So Command plus on a Mac is to zoom in. Command minus is to zoom out. Sometimes when you're working on Photopea, you want your tools to be bigger or smaller. So if you click on the URL bar and then you use Command plus, it will keep your image the same size, but it will make your tools bigger. Or Command minus will make your tools smaller. When you click on the image area and do Command plus and Command minus, it will just zoom in on the image. Very helpful trick and shortcut. If you hit Command 0, it will make it full screen within your browser. All right, now I'm going to use what's called the Move tool at the very top just to move the image roughly to the center. And if I want to rotate it or mess with it, I can go to Edit, Transform, and I can do Rotate, Skew, Distort, Perspective, Warp. All of these are great. If you want to do just basic transforming, I recommend what's called Free Transform. It's right above the Transform command. So I can go to Edit, Free Transform. That gives me a transform box that I can use. Edit, Free Transform. It's doing it on just one pixel, so I must have a selection. So whenever something's doing something weird, hit Command D. It will deselect so that you can make a new selection. I'm going to select my layer, and then I'm going to say Edit, Free Transform, and I'll get that transform box again. This time, I can change its scale just by dragging. If I hold down Shift, I can distort it as I drag it. And if I click outside of the corner, I can rotate it. I can even flip its axis if I want, so that it's a reverse. So you'll see that. I can also right-click within the transform box and get all of these other options, right? Flip horizontal. My favorite is warp, which makes it into kind of a chicken wire mesh. It's like rolling cookie dough. And you can stretch it and turn it into what you want. And I'm also going to challenge you not to always think of things as having an up or down for this, because it might look better if it's turned upside down. It doesn't necessarily need to be a right side up. All right, now the most important thing is if I go to image size, before I bring in more images, my image is 8 by 10 inches by 300 pixels per inch. Then I can bring in my other images. I'm going to bring them in one by one, the ones I want to use. Definitely this one. Oh, I got to close my image size window first. So I just drag and drop it from my desktop. Then I'll make it a little bigger. And remember, they come in and they immediately give you the free transform tools to play with. Okay, next. I'm using function F11 a lot to get back to my desktop. I'm going to make this one bigger. A lot bigger. Hit return. Next. Bring in this one. Make it bigger. Maybe flip it. And tilt it. And squeeze it in. Because I'm going to be cutting from these and then kind of joining them all together. Okay, next. Let's see, I'll probably use this one. The signature instead of the Shel Silverstein. And I'm just going to use the sketch. And I'm going to flip it vertically. And tilt it a little bit. All right. So now, this is kind of the bare minimum where I want you to be by the end of class today. I have Photopea open. I'm at an image size, which is always worth checking. Not canvas size, sorry. Image size of 8 by 10 inches at 300 pixels per inch. And I've got 5 separate layers. So the next thing I'm going to teach you is how do we edit those layers. So first of all, it's really hard to see how they jumble together when they cover each other up. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean these layers up and we're going to get rid of all the white. There are shortcuts for this, but it's good to learn kind of the full way to do it. So when you see a blank checkerboard, this gray checkerboard, that means there's no pixels there. So for an image like this is how we clean it up. We're going to learn our first, what's called direct image adjustment. We go to Image, Adjustments, and we're going to go to Levels. There are 3 adjustments we're going to learn in this class. For this assignment, we're just going to learn levels. This adjusts lights and darks. It's like brightness, contrast, but better. When you click on levels, you get what's called a histogram. What you see here are all the pixels in your image, the ones that are closest to white, the ones that are closest to black, the ones that are in the mid-range. Most coloring book pages will look like this. To clean them up, I'm going to push the white slider closer to the middle so that all of those pixels are solid white. And I'm going to take the black slider and push it closer to the middle. So all of those dark pixels are closer to black. Right? Then I'm going to hit OK. And on some images, it will make a dramatic difference. On images like this, if I go back before I did levels, you'll see that it will take things that look kind of grainy and it will sharpen them up. So it's just black and white pixels. Next, I'm going to get rid of all of the white completely in one step. To do that, I'm going to use the magic wand, and I'm going to uncheck contiguous in these tool options, click on the white, and then hit delete. All right. So next class, I'm going to be bringing these all together. The other thing you can do with selections is you can just start erasing. I like to use the lasso to select and then just hit delete. The lasso to select, like I don't need these scissors. And I'm not using a tablet, but you certainly could. And hit delete. This little arrow, delete. And I might get more brutal eventually and like erase the eyes, the face, do things more like Arturo Herrera does. But right now I'm just cleaning up each layer. So what I did there, I can now do to other layers. And I saw some hands up, and I'm just going to do this and then come in and help. This will be my last video before our week-long break. I'll see you next Wednesday. But I'm going to have to show you how to save it. So with this image, before I can erase anything, because this isn't my background image like the first one, it's going to ask me if I should rasterize it. You only rasterize it if it's already the size you want. Before it's rasterized, it's referencing the original file that you brought in, and it has a little black box in it that shows it's locked. So it won't let you delete from it or change it too much. So in order to delete from it and change it, because this is the size I want, you have to right-click on the layer and then click rasterize. What does rasterize mean? It means to turn into pixels. In a pixel generator program like this, it means to bring those pixels into the program instead of referencing an outside file for those pixels. So when I rasterize, now that black box is gone, now I own these images within this project, and I can then go to image, adjustment, levels, and I can really brighten it up. I can really darken it up, just like I did before. And some of the color is still there, right? So now I do something different than I did that first time. And we will learn all of this. I use my magic wand. I uncheck contiguous, but instead of clicking on the white and deleting, this time I click on the black. And it will select all the black line art and ignore everything else. And I don't want to delete it. What do I want to do? I want to do what's called duplicate it. To do that, you hit Command J. Now what did that do? On the layer above the layer I was on, it created a new layer that is just the black line art. So now I have two layers I can use. And then I can just take the color layer, select it, and delete it. Right. All right, now there's still a lot I need to do. I need to erase all this stuff. And I'll get to that. And I'll do that. I'll have to get rid of the color there, get the line art, on and on. But as long as you have 5 layers, now I want you to save it. So you save by going to File, Save as a PSD. PSD stands for Photoshop Document, even though this is a Photopea. And you're going to get this screen. You're not going to get this screen if you're using Safari instead of Chrome. If you use Safari, which I don't recommend, Chrome always for this class, it's going to just immediately download, and you're not going to be able to change the name until it's already downloaded. But Chrome lets you change the name of the file. So what I'm going to do is change it to always the same thing in this class. You always start with your name so that you can find the file if it gets lost. Then you do a description of the project. So this is exercise number 1, and this is Professor Wormbog. I'll just call it Wormbog, and I call this in my work glumps. Okay, then say save. It's going to save as a PSD file because you said save as PSD. And I saved it to the desktop. Always navigate to the desktop. I'm going to mark it as yellow. Make sure you see it. Because now on our desktop, we have our reference images and we have our assignment. What we don't have is a folder. Right? So we're going to create a folder. How do we create a folder? You find empty space on your desktop. Remember, you can get to it by hitting function F11. You're going to right click and you're going to say new folder. Then we're going to use this code for your